Okay, now you can see I've got the quilt up on the wall, and you're going to take 11.5-inch strips that we subcut from the longer strips that we set aside at the beginning and start sashing. So you want a block, a sash, a block, a sash, a block, and I'm sorry about the dog. Let me say that again. A block, a sash, a block, a sash, a block. And you want to repeat that for all 3 rows. Then you're going to take long strips, and I don't have any cut right at the moment. You can take long strips and put them here, 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 and here to finish off the center, and then long strips along the side to finish off the side. And you get an idea of what the quilt is then going to look like. This long strip will go all the way from the top of the top sashing border all the way to the bottom of the bottom sashing border. The dog hears me talking and she thinks that's very interesting. So, and that's how we're going to finish off the whole top, quilt top. There won't be you can certainly add any kind of additional border you want to if you want this to be bigger, but this will ultimately be about 45 inches square, and that will be perfect for a baby quilt. If you do 42 squares, we have 9. If you do 42 squares, you need to 4 times every piece of fabric. You need to, and then make 42 in order to have a king size quilt. Twin size, you could do 4 by 6, I think, would give you pretty much a twin size. If you wanted to do like college dorm or something like that, I'm going to do that with Rachel, my granddaughter. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to help you next week to see how to do the quilting. So actually, what we've done so far is piecing. There's always a misnomer of, oh, I'm a quilter. Quilting is making the sandwich of the 3 pieces. This is piecing to get the top. So next week we'll talk about how to quilt this up and do the binding, because binding is important. You want to finish the quilt. Don't just have a bunch of tops. You want to finish it. Okay, later. Okay, I want to show you pressing for when you're adding on the sashing. Always press in the path of least resistance. Unless you are pressing something like when these intersections came together, I pressed those open because I've got to press them one way or the other, you'd end up with a large pile of seam allowance. This way you end up with a small pile of seam allowance. But when you're going towards the sashing and there's just no other seam interlocking there, intersecting, you can just press towards the sashing. Same with this top row that we're pressing on. You can just press toward the back row, or towards the back row. That does not make any sense. I press towards the sashing strip, and that way it'll just be flat. All right. Now the reason that you want to do that, this is the back of my piece, and I don't know if you can see it in any kind of detail, but it's really flat. It's laying flat. All my seams, intersections are flat. Everything's flat. Helps that there are no real intersecting seams here, no stars coming together, anything like that. Those are always a bugaboo. But it's nice and flat. One of the reasons that you want to do this is when you are actually doing the quilting, making the sandwich, and you're doing the quilting, your quilter will not have to worry about running into a big pile of twisted 8-layer deep fabric, which is going to break her needle, or it's going to break yours if you're doing the quilting yourself. So the flatter you can get your back and the less cumbersome those intersection of seams can be, the better. So you want to just make them nice and flat. This is my first row, and I did ease this together, and I should have shown you, but I didn't show you. How you do that is I pin the beginning, I pin the center, I pin the end, so I pin both ends together, and then I pin the center, and then I kind of pull just a little bit and pin and pin and pin and pin, so that so that everything's coming out smoothly, and you can see it matches there and it matches there, and that just stretches this one piece. This is that top row that was 1/8 of an inch short. It just stretches it just ever so much to make it turn out square. So now I'm going to go do the other 2. You know, I guess you might as well see how I ease. So, I'm putting this 2 rows together, and so I've got the sashing that I was just showing you, and I'm going to start at one, and I'm going to match those corners up just so they're perfect. Match them up and pin there. Then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to pin this. And it could be that they're the exact right length. This is the second row, and the third row were 36 5/8. But it could also be that they're not. So once you have those pins, you can see that I actually have a little blousiness in the sashing strip, and when I pull it together, it makes a difference. So here's my special tool that I use. I pull so that they're just ever slightly little tug. Can you see that? Oh, well, whatever. There is a little glossiness there. So I'm going to go use my special tool. Don't worry, my quilts get washed before I hand them out. And I'm going to pin that section together. So I bit it while it was still a little bit blousy. And then this one, I'm going to do the same. If you have a handy third hand around who can do that, who can pin that spot for you, it's really good. But my handy third hand is at the office, so he can't do it for me. So now this one, so I'm going to hold it there, but I'm going to pull this because the weight of the one is heavier. The weight of the one with the sashing strip on it is a little bit heavier than the other one because it's got that sashing strip. And now it's eased in, and I'm ready to piece it, ready to stitch along that line. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'm going to finish up this time really for sure. Okay, as you can see, my quilt is completed. The quilt top is completed. And it is square because I followed my own rules. It is 41 inches square, not, well, let's just check that. I think it's 41. Not 45. Yeah, it's 41 exactly inches square. So there you go. Next week we'll talk about actually quilting it and talk about binding also, because you want to finish your quilt. You want to finish your quilt. Bye.